Hello and good morning, everybody. Teching 101 back again. I guess I should also wish everybody a very Merry Christmas Eve is when I'm filming this right now. Barry, I want you to add something to the record for me. Please let it be known that I am filming this video at exactly 10:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, December 24th, 2024. Yes, add that to the record, Barry. Thank you very much. Yes, it's just so everybody knows it is Christmas Eve right now. We've had a lot of interesting stuff happen the last few days. We no One Piece chapter this week, unfortunately, but we do have Jump Fest. We had that happen, and the reveal of Frankie's new voice actor was a really nice and rather tearful, but also very super graduation ceremony for Kazuki Yao. He took out Frankie's Speedo and laid it on the ground, and then Subaru Kimura picked it up. Subaru Kimura is going to be our new voice actor for Frankie. He's done a lot of stuff with Doraemon over the years. I'm not super familiar with that franchise, but he's also voiced Toto in JJK, and I have at least seen the first season of JJK, and I know a lot of people really like it, and I know a lot of people really like Toto as a character, so that's going to be Frankie's new voice actor. He's way younger compared to a lot of the other people on the cast, that play the Straw Hats. The youngest voice actor before Subaru Kimura joined up was Nami's voice actress, and she is 55, and Subaru Kimura is in his 30s. So they're bringing somebody else in, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he'll also voice Frankie in the Wit Studio The One Piece when that gets to the point where Frankie shows up. Who knows? And it might be smart that they're casting, a lot of a younger group of voice actors for this role. But it was a nice ceremony there with Kazuki Yao teaching Subaru Kimura how to do the super pose. That was really interesting. Something else on my end that I wanted to bring up is I did my annual charity stream for St. Jude over the weekend on Saturday, and thanks to everybody coming over to that and donating. Over $29,000 was donated, and that was the most successful charity stream I've ever done on this channel, ever, period. So give all of yourselves a round of applause on that one, because that blew me away. That was insane how well that went. So that's great. St. Jude Children's Hospital donating to a great cause. I will definitely be doing that again next year. Maybe we can even go beyond that. I don't know, but we'll see how that goes. All right. Well, anyway, what else is going on? Oh, yeah, guys, Shanks is in Elbaf, or maybe he's not, or maybe he's evil, or maybe he isn't. I guess let's start with that. Is it really Shanks? Do you really think Oda would go that direction with it? Turns out Shanks was evil! All those people that thought Shanks was evil, they're like, ah ha ha, we knew it. We knew Shanks was evil this whole time. I don't know what it is. I don't know. He has red hair. He's got the scar. Nobody has a scar that badass and is not an evil villain. Look at Scar from The Lion King. He had a scar. He's a villain. Same thing with Shanks. Okay, so let me know down below if you genuinely think it is Shanks. I don't think it's Shanks. I think with the reveal that we've had, especially with Garling, the Figarland family coming into prominence here, a little bit of stuff introduced in Film Red as well. Shanks probably has an evil twin. Okay, now I think Oda is going to handle the evil twin trope better than a lot of other, because every single trope ever ends up in One Piece sooner or later. It's just kind of a rule on how that happens, right? So okay, we're gonna get the evil twin trope. It's very likely that was the person that was meeting with the Gorosei at the Reverie, although maybe not exactly, because I went back and looked at that scene, and some of the Gorosei's dialogue there makes it think that actually was Shanks. It's gonna be interesting how Oda plays with that. Oh, you thought that was Shanks, but it was really this guy. I've been seeing a lot of different names so it's Shanks, so maybe his twin is Hanks, or I don't know, Shank is a term of getting stabbed in prison, I'm gonna shank you, so maybe it's Shiv, a shiv is a weapon that you would make out of a toothbrush or something in prison. I whistled there for a moment. Did you hear that? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, the different names and stuff like that. But some of the Gorosei, I think Top Man was I know you've come a long way to meet with us. And it's just why would he say that if that was just a member of the Gods Knights, okay? Although maybe it was mentioning that, that particular, Shanks' evil twin or whatever was off on a trip somewhere, was off in some other part of the world, and returned to Marijois during the Reverie to meet with the Gorosei to talk about a specific pirate, and this was unusual. I don't know. The individual in that that chapter, chapter 907, was wearing a cloak, and we only saw the right side of their face, and Shanks's scar is on the left side, which, by the way, is most likely the reason why Oda gave him the scar way back in the day. It was just like, okay, now we can differentiate between them. We're probably not going to have a moment where, you know, Luffy's holding the gun and he's on top of a skyscraper and there's good Shanks and evil Shanks and they look exactly the same. It's like, Luffy, he's the fake. You gotta shoot him. No, don't trust this asshole. Luffy, I'm the one that gave you the straw hat. And Luffy's holding the gun and he's like, I don't know what to do, Shanks. I don't know. Take the shot, Luffy! Ah! Nami shows up with like a sniper rifle and she takes the shot. And just like, oh, it's okay, Luffy, we got this for you. We're family. We'll take care of it for you. Right? Okay, anyway. I know, I guess it would have made more sense for Usopp to hold the sniper rifle, but I just find it funny with Nami being the one that takes the shot for some reason. Okay, so we're not going to have that. We're not going to go that level of 90s action movie with it. You know, Shanks has the scar. This dude, if it really is Shanks' evil, hot twin brother, is not going to have the scar, okay? I think it's that person. Okay. So here's a big question I've seen a lot of people bringing up, okay? And I even, you know, acknowledge this in the review because it's like the first thing that popped into my brain. Okay, so what? The God's Knights, or I guess the world government, the Gorosei, like the higher-ups in the government, can just go into Elbaf or teleport anywhere in the world they want? Because in the last chapter, the Giants were in the Western Village. They were partying. They were doing some pre-gaming before the Straw Hats showed up. They're way off in the Warrior Spring right now. They're in a different section of the Sun Lair. And then Black Lightning Bolt strikes the castle that was in the village, and in the throne room, the destroyed throne room, we see the summoning circle, very similar to the summoning circle that the Gorosei used at Egghead. The only difference is this one does not have any numbers in it, so it's indicating that there's no Gorosei arriving, I suppose. We see two cloaked individuals, one very clearly reminiscent of Shanks, and the other person, it's probably a woman, just by the way that Oda is drawing their eyes, and like the eyelashes are more prominent, so it's most likely a woman, although we do not know. And then also like a bandaged like mask on the lower part of their face and like a tuft of hair covering their other eye. So all we really have to go on is their eye and their eyelashes, okay? So and I was like, oh, Shanks' hot sister, maybe? It's like, we don't know. We don't know yet. I hesitate to say that. Because there's a lot of other directions that we could go here. But going back to the question at hand, so what? They could just create a summoning circle anywhere in the world and teleport themselves there at any time? They could just do that? The world government could just have invaded Elbaf at any time? Well, yes and no. No to the question of they can teleport anywhere in the world at any time. I think there are very clear limitations on that, okay? And we saw one of them at Egghead, all right? So Jay Garcia Saturn arrived at Egghead on a boat. Like, he actually left Marijois, went down the Red Port, got on a ship, and that took him to Egghead, all right? And then he had his moment there with Kuma and Bonnie and everything. He transformed into, I'm a giant yokai spider monster, right? Okay. And then when shit was really getting live and the other Gorosei were communicating with Saturn telepathically, and they were like, Saturn, this has gone too far. We need to all go there. We need to all be there. Create the circle at once. So it was the other Gorosei that were like, okay, we need to go to Egghead immediately. Saturn, you need to do that. They couldn't just choose to do that of their own volition. Like, come on, guys. Come on. Top Man, Ethan, Marcus, we're going, you know, and then they just warp their way there, right? No, Saturn had to, like, do the summoning jutsu and then create the giant sandworm and the boar and the Itsumade and the Hokotsu and the, is it Hokotsu or Bokotsu? I can't remember, the skeleton horse that Ethan turns into, right? Okay, so that indicates that the Gorosei can summon themselves, but they can't summon themselves to just any random location. Like, Saturn had to go there, like, the normal way, okay? And in this instance, look at where they teleported into. Shanks' evil twin and mysterious cloaked woman that may or may not be Shanks' hot sister. Look where they warped into, okay? They warped specifically into the throne room of this castle on Elbaf, all right? Now, when you look at the throne room in the background, some of it could be destroyed. Like, you see a light ray coming down from the roof, probably where the lightning bolt struck. So the lightning bolt struck, made a giant hole in the ceiling, and then the summoning circle appeared in the throne room. And then you see the light ray coming down kind of like epically. That's going to look so cool in the anime. But like illuminating the two cloaked figures as they get up. Almost like the shadows of the room and the light rays are obscuring their faces. Like that's going to be really cool in the anime. But that was probably because of the summoning. But if you look around at the rest of that room, it is showing some battle damage that is probably not because of the summoning, all right? The walls of that room all looked carved up like there was like an epic sword master battle that went on in that room. The throne, which we can only assume is King Harald's throne, has been like almost completely destroyed. Like it really looks like King Harald was like sitting on the throne, and then somebody took a giant axe or a giant sword or something and then swiped it and then just like right here, this entire section, like maybe where King Harald's like neck was at the time, that's how he died. That's how he was murdered while sitting on his throne, and it left a giant gash in the throne, okay? That's what it looked like to me, all right? So the fact the summoning circle appeared there makes me think that, like, yeah, this is not just, hey, we're going to go to Elbaf. We're going to go after Vegapunk and the Straw Hats after what happened at Egghead. All right, we can warp anywhere in the world anytime we want at the snap of our fingers. Well, where are we going to appear? I don't know. The castle at Elbaf in the Sun Lair. Too specific for me, okay? So we also learned some stuff about King Harald in the last chapter. Angie talks about him a little bit. Ripley talks about him a little bit at the Walrus School and everything. And we learned that he was a peaceful man. He was trying to get away from the archaic traditions of the warland, where instead of waging war with everybody, we open trade and commerce. Crazy revolutionary idea. Never been done before in Elbaf, but that was the kind of guy King Harald was. And it seems to be that King Harald was very popular with the people. Like, they mentioned that the village elders, like Yorl and Jarl, like back in the day, would have been like opposed to that because they obviously are just like, you know, this is Elbaf. We pick up swords, and the only schooling we need is the schooling in hacking off body parts. That's the only kind of lesson we need to teach. You know what I mean? Like they were really much about like the old days of like going out to sea, pillaging, plunder. Remember, Dory and Bragi 100 years ago were the captains of the giant warrior pirates. Yorl and Jarl were the captains before them, and that tradition probably goes back several generations, thousands of years maybe, in Elbaf's history, okay? Well, maybe even before the Void Century they were doing this shit, right? It's called the Warland for a reason. Loki was talking about the underworld as the primordial or first world, so I imagine the giants have been at this for quite some time, all right? So, but King Harald was like, hey, let's start to open up the world a little bit. And he was more about preaching like peace and everything. And it was actually because of King Harald's like being the benefactor that the Owl Library and the Walrus School even opened. Like, I guess he gave Saul like the go-ahead and the funding to go and open up those institutions in the Warrior Spring, okay? So King Harald seemed to be an okay guy. And that Loki was the one that murdered him. Yes. I don't know. I don't trust this as far as I could throw it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like King Harald was such a peaceful man that the people all loved and cared for. And then Loki, his own son, the shame of the giants, murdered him in cold blood while he was on his throne. He only was able to achieve half of what he was trying to do. All right, I foresee two possibilities here. I mean, there's way more than two possibilities, but I foresee two possibilities here, okay? Possibility number one, let's use King Harald as a prime example of the most naive person in all of One Piece, right? Like, good-hearted individual, heart was in the right place, very naive on how the world works, okay? So he was like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be causing war all over the world. All right, that's a good start. Like, that's not a bad place to begin. Maybe we should open commerce with other nations. All right, yeah, that's good. Trade is helpful. Yeah, that's great. That'll allow your nation to flourish. And, okay, that makes sense. We should ally with the world government. Okay, now that one is... you got to be really careful about that, King Harald. maybe living on Elbaf for so long, or maybe he was like flaunting the knowledge of the before times, like, you know, the lesson of the king was just like, never trust the world government, and maybe King Harald was the one that's like, that's just all a bunch of mumbo jumbo, you know, I'm gonna see what the world government's all about. It's like, okay. And so what if he did try, because they talked about opening commerce and trade with other nations. That basically, you know, to me, that says ally with the world government. That's basically what that translates to me. Also, keep in mind, Mother Caramel was on Elbaf for a long time during King Harald's reign. I mean, Loki was born when Mother Caramel was there, so the King Harald was the king, like, you know, 60-something, 70-something years ago, right? Mother Caramel's whole idea was like, oh yeah, peace and understanding and stuff. In reality, she was actually a trafficker working for the world government, working for Cypherpool. You know what I mean? So maybe that had something to do with that, not really sure. But King Harald was like, yeah, let's work with the world government here. You know, they're probably not as bad as everyone says they are. Probably was not aware that they were led by yokai monsters or anything like that. So he began to open up trade with the world government, and maybe some diplomats, maybe even one of the Gorosei, maybe even one of the Gods Knights, you know, some higher ups from the government personally went to Elbaf, not just to open up trade, but like, wait a minute, Elbaf is like this immovable fortress that we have been trying to gain access to for literally centuries. And now the king is inviting us to there to have like a sit-down chat to like think about like alliances and trade and stuff. You imagine like if the requirement for the teleportation, the summoning circle thing to work is you have to actually maybe for the Gorosei, they don't have to physically draw one. They could just like do the summoning technique or whatever. But if it's like anybody could do it, like the Gods Knights could do it, but they need to physically draw a thing. They were like, oh, yeah, go to Elbaf and meet with King Harald. And hey, when you have some free time, draw a summoning circle so we can gain access to that place anytime we want, right? So they open up like a summoning channel, as it were, a fast travel waypoint kind of situation, right? So some people from higher up in the government go there, and they start talking with King Harald. They might have, like, it depends on how naive King Harald was. Because if that's the direction we're going with it, we could literally have a thing where it's just like, hey, King Harald, we have this ability where we could open up a summoning channel and we could just teleport here and discuss things with you anytime we want. And King Harald is like, man, that's convenient. Technology these days, the things you can do. All right, go ahead, draw a giant satanic, like summoning circle-esque thing in the middle of my throne room, and then you could just like warp in here whenever you want. That's great. You don't have to take a ship at all. And then like, yeah, why not? And the other giants just didn't know about it, maybe. And now King Harald is dead, so maybe that's why Loki killed him. Maybe Loki was just like, Father, you don't understand. You're going to destroy everything. And Loki's like, King Harald is like, no, Loki, please. It was all for the good of the nation. No, you fool. And then maybe that's how he died right there. And then he got chained to a tree and everything like that. So King Harald wasn't evil necessarily, but very naive. And then Loki killed him. And then Loki was branded as evil and then chained to a tree. Hey everybody, editing teching here. So as I was going through this, I mentioned earlier there were two possibilities with King Harald, and I only brought up one. That's how it goes. So the other one is really not that complicated. It's just that King Harald was straight up evil, but he was really good at hiding it, basically. So he presented himself as this kindly benefactor, like, oh yes, open the owl library and the school, but in reality, he was dealing with the world government from behind the scenes, or maybe not even necessarily evil, because that does seem kind of boring, that he was just, he was an evil king the whole time, but maybe, like, the government was manipulating him in other ways, like, you're going to allow us to create a summoning channel here, or we're going to kill your child, or something like that. I don't know. And King Harald is like, no, not my children. And that's what resulted in... I feel like it's not going to be as simple as King Harald was evil. I feel like it's going to be, like, there's going to be a tragedy involving King Harald and Loki, where the world government is probably behind everything, in a similar vein that the world government and specifically Saturn were responsible for, like, messing up Bonnie and Kuma's life, okay? It's probably going to be something along that line. And maybe the summoning channel is still there. And they were like, okay, well, let's, like, now, even with that there, it's going to be difficult for the government to like invade Elbaf and like take it over. Because Elbaf has like the strongest army in the whole damn world, right? I mean, they're the war land for a reason, okay? And there's probably a limit to who can arrive through that summoning channel. I don't think they can bring an entire army through that summoning circle, okay? Now, the Gorosei could warp there, maybe, and the Gods Knights can warp there, right? Maybe whoever the Gods Knights wants to bring with them, maybe there's like a limited capacity of how many people can fit in a singular summoning circle. Only 2 people went through this time, so I don't know if that's a limit. It's a 5-pointed star. Maybe the limit is 5 per summoning circle. Maybe that's how it works. Not really sure. But I don't think these 2 individuals, Shanks' evil twin and this mysterious woman that arrived here, are going to, like, invade Elbaf and kill everybody and take over the whole place. I don't think that's their job, because they're only 2 people, right? If you're gonna, like, look, if you want to say, like, a bunch of giants notice what's going on and they try to attack them, which that's going to be complicated, because if one of them looks like Shanks, it probably could pretend to be Shanks and be like, oh yeah, hi Dory, hi Broggy, I am Shanks, one of the Yonko. Ah, Shanks, we thought you left. Yeah, I forgot something. Hey, are the Straw Hats here? Yeah, we just brought them. They're over at the Warrior Spring. Ah, where would that be again? Oh, that's, well, obviously right over there. You've been drinking a lot again, Shanks? Oh, yeah, drinking a lot. Always super wicked toasted. Same with my companion here. She is also very drunk and doesn't know where everything is right now. Oh, well, we'll show you right there. Come along with us. We'll show you where the Straw Hats are at. And then they just might show them right too. Because Dory and Broggy are also kind of drunk right now. Like, they are drinking a lot. So maybe they're like, whoa, Shanks. Maybe that might be the direction we go. I don't know. But even if they had to fight, like, even if Dory and Broggy realized, like, wait a second, you're not Shanks, let's fight. They might be strong enough to, like, beat Dory and Broggy. They're not going to be strong enough, like, 2 of the Gods Knights strong enough to, like, wipe out the entire army of Elbaf. I mean, that's a little bit insane. You know what I mean? If that was possible, right? So their job is probably not to take over Elbaf. Their job is to deal with Vegapunk and the Straw Hats. Which is, by the way, something I really enjoy, because, like, the government knows the Straw Hats went to Elbaf. Like, that's not a mystery where they escaped to after the end of Egghead. And it was like, all right, like, Marcus could fly, so how could they get away from Egghead? And it's like, oh, they just knocked him away like Team Rocket and he warped back to the room or something, right? So they were able to escape Egghead, but it's like, dude, the government knows where they're going. All right. I can understand not sending a giant force because they just, exhausted a lot of their manpower, dealing with the Egghead situation. But, like, they're gonna follow you to Elbaf. And the fact that they are is like, okay, yeah, they're still not getting away from the government. Now the Gods Knights are getting involved, right? Okay, cool. So, let's talk about the other mysterious individual, all right? So a lot of people have actually thrown out the idea. I mean, there's other ideas like that. That's just another Gods Knight from another family, because we don't know that many families. We know the Figarland family. We know the Manmeyer family. We know the Don Quixote family. If you want to say each individual member of the Gorosei, that's their families, like the Ethan Baron family or the Marcus family, although that's not, we don't really know how that works with the Gorosei, considering how old they are and, their yokai monsters and everything like that. Did the Jay Garcia family just die out just now, maybe because Jay Garcia died, maybe because he's like really old or something like that, or any other members of their families? How does that work? Not really sure. But we don't know that many families. We know, also the Nefertari family. They were the original, but they left, so there's only 19 at Marijois, right? We need to find out more of those. So it would be interesting to have Shanks' brother as a representative of the Figarland family, and then this other woman as a representative from a completely different family. So that could definitely be an option and, like, allow to more lore with the Gods Knights. So keep that in mind. Now, something else is Uta. Maybe not Uta exactly, like from the movie Uta, but this woman has a tuft of hair covering one of her eyes. It's, I believe, the opposite eye as Uta than in the movie, and has, like, a mask covering their face. Is that Oda doing that just for dramatic effect, or is that because more of like, oh, if I draw her like with her face, you're gonna know it's Uta, or based off of Uta, like maybe Uta in the manga like changed a little bit there. That doesn't maybe make any sense, but the design maybe might be inspired by Uta in some way, depending on if Uta herself is going to show up in the manga. Shanks thought about her in the flashback when she was a child. So the idea is maybe in the context of the manga, Uta's still alive, but she was just left on Elgia, and that like the bad stuff with Top Musica never happened. Or we could spin in a different direction where maybe she ended up at Marijois somehow and adopted by the Figarland family and was used as like a weapon against Shanks or something, you know, maybe that. Or it could just be a character with a similar design, or might not have any connection to Uta at all. It's just something I've seen that was popped around quite a bit, right? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, like, either, I believe the most likely options are either she is a member of the Figarland family, in which case probably is going to be like Shanks's sister or something. I can't really see anything else about it. Or a separate member of the God's Knights, not really directly related to Shanks's family, but closely like works with them and stuff like that. Or might be Uta, or a design based off of Uta is probably the best idea that, you know, I've seen around and I think makes sense for that character. Yeah. Shanks's sister. Maybe Urza. Maybe she looks like Urza from Fairy Tail. That's, yeah, I could see Urza being Shanks's sister. Yeah, that makes sense, sure. But I'm curious on how we're going to play around with this if it is Shanks's brother. Like, yeah, like I said earlier, like, okay, how much would that subterfuge really work? You know, I was having a discussion about this with O'Hara recently, and it was like, you know, Luffy is dumb. But Luffy, I don't think, is so dumb that if he sees a person that kind of resembles Shanks but doesn't have the scar, Luffy would instantly be like, "You're Shanks! It's been so long!" I think, like, Luffy knows enough and, like, the vibes and knows how to read a person that he would be like, "You're not really Shanks." You know what I mean? Like, it's like, guys, get back. That's not really Shanks. I would hope that, because that's something that's always kind of annoying with this trope. It's just like, you have an evil twin that doesn't look exactly like the good twin. Like, let's say this is Shanks' evil twin. He doesn't have the scar. That's kind of a big deal. Or, like, in Star Trek, they all have the evil goatees, like evil Spock had the goatee or whatever, right? It's just like, this should be like a cue up immediately when you see this person and they have different facial hair than when you just saw them like 2 days ago, or, you know, just recently, or they're missing a scar, or they have a scar. It'd be like, that's not really Dave. You're evil Dave. You know, could be that obvious, right? So I'm hoping that's not played with too much with the Straw Hats. I could see the slightly toasted giants being like, holy shit, Shanks, it's crazy. Yeah, Straw Hats are right over there. I could see that happening. But once they actually meet up with the Straw Hats, like, they take off their cloaks and Shanks is there and just like, hello there, Monkey D. Luffy. Do you recognize me? And Luffy's like, Shanks, wait. No, you're not Shanks. Who are you? Okay, you got me. My name is Hanks. Hank Hill from King of the Hill? And then the King of the Hill music starts playing. Okay. He's like, that's right, Luffy. This is my sword, Propanus. It deals out harsh propane. You know, and then there you go, right? Okay. But no. I mean, like, if this is going to go down, I want to see what the God's Knights are finally freaking capable of, all right? Because they kind of just showed up recently in the story. We didn't really know about their existence, and apparently they're really strong. So Garling is now a Gorosei, so, like, let's bring them out. Let's bring out these God's Knights, and let's see what they can do. Let's bring it up to 12, right? Let's dial it up here and see what they can do right out of the box. You know, like, I want to see some branches of Yggdrasil cut apart. I want to see the entire, like, the warrior spring, like, ripped in half with, like, a sword swing. I want to see some Getsuga Tenshos. I want to see some Bankai level shit going on with the freaking God's Knights here, okay? All right, Oda. Just so we're all on the same page here. All right, so let me know down below how you feel about all that. But anyway, thanks for watching the video. But we're not done yet, because one more thing we have to do as a Christmas treat. Tree facts. All right, we left off with the letter I, so today we're covering, this sounds really cool, the ironwood tree. Damn, that is cool that actually exists. The ironwood tree, right? Sounds like something from Skyrim. I've never played Skyrim, but like, go and chop down the ironwood tree and make a shield. Do you make shields in Skyrim? I've never played the Elder Scrolls. But anyway, is the new one out yet? That wasn't Skyrim the 5th one. Is there a 6th one coming out? I don't know. Are we on 7, right? I have no idea. I don't know. Anyway, ironwood tree. That's the genus. There are dozens of species of ironwood tree. There's a lot of them. Olnea or Olnea is the genus name. And then we're going to be talking about Olnea tessota. is the specific species today. It is the desert ironwood tree found in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona in the United States. There's also the tropical variant of ironwood, Hawaiian version of that. There's versions in Central America and the Caribbean. They're kind of all over. So there's a lot of different versions of this. Now, the reason they're called the ironwood tree, as you can imagine, is their bark and the trunks of the tree, their branches are very, very dense, okay, which is the way they grow. They grow very slow in the desert. They have a lot of oils and resins inside of them, and the density of that wood helps retain water better. So in a very arid desert environment, they have to adapt to be very, very hardy. It is also because of that density that they have a very unique property, and that is they sink. When you cut off a branch of an ironwood tree, it will not float in water. It will sink to the bottom, which is very unique for wood. When you cut off a branch of a tree, you will float in water, but not with the ironwood tree, damn it. Because it's the desert and because this is a plant, a tree that's able to thrive very well, it's also referred to as a nurse tree, where a bunch of animals and various species can kind of gather around the tree, and it sort of forms like a micro habitat around it. So, various animals and insects and stuff and plant life can thrive under the shade and protection of this really hard tree. It is so hardy, in fact, that it can live up to 1,500 years, and even after they die, the wood can still be used for hundreds of years after. It's like a zombie tree because of how dense the wood is and everything and how slow it grows overall. It basically makes it extraordinarily resistant to decay and decomposition. So it even when it dies and it's no longer growing and sucking up moisture or anything anymore, that wood could still be used for quite some time. And so tribes in the area would use it for various ceremonies and build crafts and jewelry out of it and everything like that, which seems to be the case with every sort of tree we've discussed on here so far. But still, ironwood tree. That's cool. That should also be the name of a band, Ironwood. Go a couple different directions with that, I guess. Anyway, that's the video. Merry Christmas, and to all a good night, everybody. This will be Teching, signing out. Barry, have it be on record that I ended this video at exactly 10:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, December 24th, 2024. I don't know how much this will be after editing, but that gives you an idea how much I cut out. All right, later, everybody.